The dynamic duo of Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. In games 3 and 4, with Westbrook at the 2 and KD just being KD, they looked unbeatable. But with the Thunder failing to return to the finals since their 2012 appearance, it's time to consider what does not work. Stephen A. Smith, we asked this question. Do you think Westbrook and Durant can win a championship together?
I think they can if you get them the necessary pieces. The fact of the matter is, when you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're not playing in the NBA Finals this Thursday night because they had no interior presence on the offensive side of the ball. Come playoff time, it's a big man's, it's a man's game. It's no longer a boy's game. You're not winning championships if you're shooting perimeter shots. It's simply not happening. You've got to have somebody big to throw the ball on the low post to, unless you have a LeBron who's capable of posting you, unless you have an MJ who's a one-of-a-kind kind of dude. Outside of that, you're not going to win a championship if there's no one to throw the ball to in the post, who can play with their back to the basket, who can draw attention, draw double teams, get to the free throw line, etc. Even though Oklahoma City was exceptional at getting to the free throw line throughout this NBA season, the fact remains is that you worry about Kevin Durant's greatness and Russell Westbrook's greatness, but in terms of the style of play that they incorporate, combined with the way Scott Brooks continuously leans so much on them to deliver the goods under any kind of circumstances, instead of finding an alternative, using them as a decoy from time to time, since he's been ineffective in doing that, in the end, what it comes down to is that there's still a missing piece in Oklahoma City. The Serge Ibakas of the world, the Steven Adams of the world, people like that, you need somebody that's capable of playing with their back to the basket in the low post. And they don't have that right now.
So you're saying that LeBron and Wade are much better than Durant and Westbrook?
Yeah, playoff time, yes, because they can take you inside. You see, in the end, Kevin Durant has to learn and do a better job of posting up smaller guys. But again, you don't have the legs to pull that off, because when you're shorter but you're stockier, you have leverage. And it's hard for him to do that. He can shoot over anybody, but it's hard for him to post up and back people down. LeBron and D-Wade don't have that problem. Continuously, Spoelstra places them in a position where they're able to exploit mismatches. And even though I like Scott Brooks a lot, I don't think he does a good enough job in that department.
I hear what you're saying about interior presence, but I must say, too many times I watched Serge Ibaka terrorize the San Antonio Spurs. In those first 6 games this year that he was healthy, 4 regular, 2 playoffs, they had no answer for Serge Ibaka. So it's hard for me then to leap to another conclusion that they just don't have a big man, because they had the biggest man in the game for a while in my mind, and in their mind, in the Spurs' mind. They had no answer. They did not have a clue. They didn't know how to solve the Serge problem. And finally, it took inserting, not Matt Barner, I'm not going to give Pop that, but when Diaw started playing high minutes and drawing him a little bit away from the basket, because Diaw can make an occasional big 3, and Diaw started finding little ways to attack Serge on offense in the low post, where he could do it with his French pastry and start to torment Serge a little bit and get his mind off blocking so many weak side shots. Finally, they solved the riddle of the Sphinx, because I really didn't think they could, because there was no evidence through those 6 games. So my point is, I think that Durant and Westbrook are going to have a hard time winning a championship together as constituted with Serge Ibaka, because they just ignore Serge Ibaka. Like after a while, he becomes no factor when he should be a big factor. Listen, he can make jump shots. He's killed the Spurs with jump shots. He can make some interior shots, but they don't ever run a play for him or feed him the basketball in the lower post. So unless Oklahoma City finds a true point guard, I don't think as constituted these two can win together. The reason I don't is because I still see way too much of my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. Let me throw one stat at you that I found this morning. This is almost hard for me to process. In those 6 games against the Spurs passed the ball in the half court 519 more times than Thunder passed the ball. in just 6 games, 519 more passes were made by the team that won the series. What does that tell you? That there's way too much of Westbrook dribbles the ball up the floor. Either he decides to drive it, pull it up and shoot it, or maybe flip it over to Kevin, just one pass, and let Kevin figure out how to make a basket, right?
Well, yeah. But the flip side to that, Skip, is that even in a loss, what I would tell you is that showcases the greatness of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. Because to pass the ball so infrequently, to not have an offense where this fluidity that's kicked in consistently, and to still get within 2 games of an NBA Finals, to go 4 consecutive years of improvement, first round, second round, conference finals, then NBA Finals, before falling off last year once Russell Westbrook got hurt, before falling off this year once Serge Ibaka got hurt and was out the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals. You look at the constant growth and maturation of this team, but there's really been no growth and maturation as it pertains to them as players, because we're seeing the same things over the last 3 years. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook grew, but I still see the same 2 guys that I saw that lost in the finals to Miami. That's who they are. And so for me, to know what they're going to give you, to know what they're going to throw at you, to have very few wrinkles thrown into the equation, and for them to still win the games that they have won, is a testament to their greatness, which is why I'm confident they could ultimately win an NBA championship. Because what it really says is that, do I think Scott Brooks should get a pass? Absolutely, because Serge Ibaka wasn't healthy this time around and Russell Westbrook wasn't healthy last year. But his time is running out, because when you look at Kevin Durant, Ibaka, Westbrook, all 25 years of age or younger, you're looking at this team and saying, all right, you got time, but at the same time, some would argue it should be their time. And the fact that it isn't, if you can't look at Durant, you can't look at Westbrook, and you can't look at Ibaka, you got to look at Scott Brooks. Maybe not at this point, but next season, he's going to be on the clock in my estimation. But the other thing is, Skip, again, if they are that predictable, but they're still that successful, it speaks to their greatness and how you got to tweak it. You're right about the point guard spot, and I wasn't trying to dismiss that. But I think even more importantly is that big man presence in the post offensively. They have no one on their front line who can play with their back to the basket.
Would they share the ball with that guy?
Well, I think they would. I think they ultimately would, because I think that guy would get them open shots. I think if you got a guy that you could throw it down in the low post to that can draw attention, he will turn around and kick it back out, and all of a sudden those jumpers would be uncontested. The only uncontested jump shots that the Oklahoma City Thunder ever get is when they're on the fast break. There is no, in terms of ball movement, their jump shots are always contested.
Sure.
Always contested.
Always will be.
That has to change. Well, that's not going to always be the case if the roster changes a little bit. I think it's a couple of things. And Scott Brooks actually hurt himself with this. When you inserted Reggie Jackson into the lineup and y'all looked as good as you looked, well, it begged the question, what the hell took you so long? I mean, this is something that should have been exercised and utilized far earlier than it was, because then some cohesiveness would have developed. You wouldn't have been learning on the fly against the best team in the West. And as a result, who knows what it could have reaped for you. So that's point number 1. And point number 2, again, is you got to have somebody. With Steven Adams, you know you're going to get a guy rough and tumble who can block shots, rebound, and defend. With Ibaka, it's the same thing. What you don't have, whether it's an M2, Perkins, Collison, or whatever, you do not have anybody that can play with their back to the basket and post you up.
Okay, you mentioned Reggie Jackson goes into the lineup in games 3, 4, 5, and 6, and they call him their new point guard, and they say Russell is actually playing the 2. Reggie Jackson's not a point guard. He's another combo guard.
I understand.
He actually just muddies the water, because you really have 3 combo guards playing in the backcourt. Because Durant's going to handle the ball some. He's going to dribble the ball some. He has some guard skills to him. Reggie Jackson, in those 4 games, went 5 assists, not bad, but then he went 2, 2, and 3. 5, 2, 2, and 3. Well, that's not exactly a distributor. And I got to tell you, Russell Westbrook, I thought played great in this series. I thought he consistently outplayed the new MVP, Kevin Durant. So what's happening here? Russell belongs at the 2. He belongs as your primary scorer. And there's got to be some way, as Durant...
Hold on. Primary scorer?
Yeah.
Like meaning number one option ahead of Durant?
Yeah.
Do I need to call you to get drug tested? Kevin Durant should be our number two
I just spent 6 nights rooting against these guys.
Kevin Durant should
and
be
every time Westbrook had the ball, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, there's no way to stop this guy.
But Kevin Durant should be a number two option?
This guy is going to be a bigger star than Kevin Durant.
Wow.
You heard it here first. No. That's not far-fetched, Kerry. That's not far-fetched.
He's good.
No. That part is not far-fetched. Here's why. Because Russell Westbrook appears to want it.
Yep.
See, the problem is, and as we're sitting here talking about OKC, let's get one thing out of the way once and for all about the reigning league MVP, who, as far as I'm concerned, is the second best player in the game. He is a legit superstar. And I brought this analogy up. In the arena in Oklahoma City, Russell Westbrook wants to win. He don't care what. He don't care what it takes.
Right.
It don't matter. He don't care about anybody's feelings or whatever.
He doesn't care what you say.
He don't care what I say. He doesn't care what Scott Brooks says. I mean, this dude, there are timeouts where he's sitting on the end of the bench by himself and everybody's in the huddle. He don't care. Russell Westbrook, he's just in a land of his own. And you know what? Leave him there because it works for him. But let me say this. Like I said in the arena the other night, you have that juxtaposed to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant can drop 50 and go home and go like this. Did I do the right things?
No.
Did I play the right way? Did I get everybody involved? Am I getting too much credit? Should my teammates get this credit? I mean, I don't want this to be about me. Russell Westbrook don't care. Kevin Durant will go home and lose sleep over that. He could drop 50, and Kevin Durant will still sit there and go, I wonder if I did everything right. So Skip has a point there in terms of one day, all right, but not when you're shooting 42% from the field and Kevin Durant is shooting 52, 53. With the efficiency of a Kevin Durant mandates that he's your number one option because he doesn't cost you as much. Yeah. And that's where you're wrong in regards to the Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant analogy.
Okay, but Kevin Durant, in these playoffs, people found some kryptonite. Tony Allen showed the league how to stop Kevin Durant, and he is the unquestioned MVP. Tony Allen shows you that 6'4 guys, 6'5 guys, have a little better chance of disrupting Kevin Durant than 6'10 guys do.
Why?
Because he's got long arms and he swings the ball below his waist and they can knock the ball out of his hands.
That's not the reason.
Yes, it is.
You know what's the reason this, Skip? Because the second Kevin Durant sees somebody on him that is smaller, his default position is to turn his back. And as a result, gets into something that's not his game. He's not a back-to-the-basket player. You're right about what can happen to him if he faces them up, but he instantly acknowledges the advantage that he has from a height perspective, so his inclination is to back you down, and they know they got a better chance of stopping him if he has to turn around and shoot as opposed to facing up and gunning you down. That's the difference, and he's got to work. Kevin Durant should be working on going against smaller players all offseason.
Who guarded him in Game 6 for the most part? Danny Green.
Your boy.
How many times did Kevin Durant turn it over in that crucial turnaround third quarter?
He had 7 turnovers in the game.
He had 5 turnovers in the third quarter. They lost at home the third quarter 37-20 with no Tony Parker on the other side.
That's right.
Just mind-blowing to me. So what happened to finish this up, we get to overtime. And truthfully, Durant got Westbrook in overtime. And how many times have I argued in the past about, I don't know, did he take too many of Kevin's shots? So Kevin goes 0 for 3 in overtime. Russell went 1 for 7. I can't defend that. So that's a combined 1 for 10. But he took 7 shots to Durant's 3 shots in overtime. And the team missed all 5 of their threes. The team goes 1 for 11. Thank you very much. My team's in the NBA Finals because I couldn't see it.
You couldn't see it coming?
No.
Can they win together as a duo? Stephen A. says yes. Both of you agree, however, they need a true point guard. You mentioned Frank Vogel. Let's talk about him. Yep. After the break, the Pacers failed to make it to the finals, but that did not affect the front office's decision.